Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be asking the question, is it good or bad for the long-term health of Star Wars Legion to have the art removed from the upgrade cards? This is going to be sort of a deep exploratory dive on various different aspects and what went into the decision to remove the art from these cards and what can be done about it, what can you do about it, what has the community already done about this, and is it going to really be a good thing or a bad thing over the long haul. If you guys are new here to the channel, I talk a lot about Star Wars tabletop games. We're going to be announcing the winner at the end of this video for the most recent $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. So, but we're also going to start another one. So if you want to have a chance to enter to win the next one, you have to just be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. And I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is best for the game? Hopefully the points that I make in this video will make sense, because I'm going to have pros and cons for this for each of the different points that I'm trying to make. So summary here is that with the 2025 edition of Star Wars Legion, Atomic Mass Games has basically revamped the entire game and created a whole new edition of it. And one of those key changes is the upgrade cards. Not only are upgrade cards now larger in size, they also have the art removed. And this has been mixed emotions from the crowd. This is definitely a controversial change. AMG has cited multi-language support as the primary reason for this change. However, I think there's a lot more to it than that. We're going to get into that and all of those reasons. First, I want to talk about the impact. Now, Star Wars is a beautiful game that is very recognizable, and one of the things that the glorious art does for all of these cards is it helps that immersion. Immersion is huge, is a big part of the reason that we play these games. It's one of the reasons that people play Star Wars as opposed to a generic sci-fi miniatures game, of which there are plenty. It's one of the things that draws people to Star Wars Legion, and the art on the cards is an important part of that immersion. But arguably more so important than the immersion is the recognizability of these cards. Not just to be able to recognize them when you're list building, but also to be able to recognize them across the table. Oh, does my opponent have force push ready? Okay. And granted, you certainly talk to each other across the table, and you look at each other's lists before you start. But being able to quick reference throughout multiple matches, I think, is an important thing, especially if you're playing, in multiple games or in a tournament, or sometimes a multi-day tournament. You're not always going to remember exactly every upgrade card that everybody has, and then looking across, if you see a whole bunch of basically upgrade cards that all look the same from a distance, it's going to be harder. And that's one of the things that having recognizable art, like we all can pick out recon intel from a mile away, for example. We all can pick out HQ uplink from a mile away, because if we've been playing Legion for a long time, we come to know these cards, we come to recognize them, and that helps when you're trying to take a battlefield assessment and try to make reactionary decisions, looking and being reminded of what your opponent has very quickly. There's an advantage to that. I'd argue that that's even more so important than just the immersion alone. So those two things are, I think, going to have a big impact on the game moving forward. Now, let's talk about the language issue. Now, there are 4 languages now in every box with the new branding of 2025's Star Wars Legion 2nd Edition, or just Star Wars Legion now. But this new version, of course, the box art looks different than it used to. One of the key things and one of the important things for this discussion is the multi-language support, which you'll see in the top right corner of every box. The game is now in English, in German, in French, and in Spanish. Now, this is certainly a good thing. It's a good thing because of the fact that this is streamlined product support. This is streamlined manufacturing, production, and shipping. You only have a single box for any given product. Now you're going to come with extra upgrade cards in all of these. You're going to see English upgrade cards, Spanish upgrade cards, etc. You're going to see all of those different language cards in every box, and that's really the cost savings there. Is that yes, it does cost more to make extra cards, but that's really a negligible price. It's fractions of a penny to do that. But the cost savings is in that you don't have to make special language translations for every single product and say, oh, well, we need more Spanish versions, but we only have English versions in stock. And so, now you just have a single type of product for every SKU. And it makes that whole process a lot more streamlined, a lot easier to maintain and ship and produce and manufacture and all of that. So that is certainly a good thing, and so that's an important part of the discussion. However, this change has its cons as well, and then it leaves out other regions that are now no longer supported. For example, Italy or Poland, like are countries that used to have direct translations under the old FFG system and under the old system that no longer have regional translations anymore and now have to rely on one of the other languages. So again, there's pros and cons to each step of this. Now, I want to talk about the new upgrade style. That one of the key reason that they talked about this is that it allowed more room for translations. And yes, translations are sometimes not a 1-to-1 ratio. Certain time, notably German has certain longer words for things, especially when it comes to Star Wars and things like Force, and different terminologies that are universe specific. Sometimes don't have a direct translation, so sometimes they end up being longer. Sometimes wording ends up being a little bit more complicated in one language than another. So having this new layout was stated by AMG that this allows them easier time to translate, because now without art on the cards, they can use the whole card if they need to. And I can see the positive side of that. That's definitely has its it allows easier changes, changes to existing cards. Even if you had to errata something and then had to errata it with 4 different languages and it ended up being bigger than it was previously or what have you. So again, for multi-language support and translation, this new format certainly has, it will meet that goal of allowing them extra room. However, most upgrade cards only have a few lines of text, and very, very little of that real estate is used already. There are a handful of upgrades that do use a little bit more. A couple will go up to almost the center of the card, but still, there's no upgrades that are using a whole card. At least not yet. This certainly does leave room for future cards. This certainly leaves room for additional things down the road that they may eventually want to use. So that could be a good thing. But it seems like it's a little bit of a con, because currently there's no upgrade cards that are using all of that. And the other thing that makes that even kind of contrary to what they said is the fact that they put a giant symbol of the upgrade type on each card where the art would have been. So you're still blocked off half of each card and made half of each card unusable by putting a placeholder image or at least the upgrade symbol instead of the art. So again, it doesn't really sell the message that you needed the whole card available for art when you put art on the card already and blocked off half of the card that you only have half of the card available. So that is interesting. But I also have a hard time believing that this translation was the primary reason for removing the art, because of the fact that they didn't apply that same methodology to upgrade cards. And I think this is an important thing, because upgrade cards have a lot more text on them than, command cards have a lot more text on them than upgrade cards do. As a matter of fact, they're also a lot more complicated. Everyone has a unique, condition for a specific character, and they usually have very detailed and in-depth wording. But in the case of command cards, they've shown that they can scale the artwork to meet the needs of the card, which in theory could easily have been also applied to upgrade cards. These command cards, for example, for Ahsoka Tano, show some that use only a couple of sentences and one that uses, half of the card, and the art is scaled appropriately in each case. They certainly could have done that as well. So again, I'm not really I'm putting this as a con because it doesn't really make sense that you would need the whole card for translation and then you see other things that are contradictory towards that explanation. Moving forward, I also want to talk about the card sizes. Now, in addition to the cards having removal of art, the cards have also been upscaled to be the standard card size, the same size as every other card in the game. Command cards, unit cards, everything is standardized. And this is largely a good thing. This is, some players rejoice at being able to have all of their cards the same size. Now they only have to buy a single type of sleeve, they only have to buy a single type of binder, so on and so forth. Your card storage solution can be simplified. The only con to this really is for those people who now have to juggle, that are going to try to maintain their miniature upgrades as well as the large upgrades and try to find some kind of hybrid solution. It could be a little bit of a headache to reorganize everything, but largely I see this as a pro. Again, increasing the upgrade card size generally seems to be a good thing. The only other con to that might be that you have less table space. But which brings me into my next point, is the tuck factor. You see all the text on the new design is at the bottom of the card. Now this is largely a positive in this case because of the fact that you can now read the card. You can now reference everything you need just by tucking it underneath maybe the equipped unit card or underneath the playmat. Or you can even tuck them underneath each other. So while the cards are larger, they mitigate that increased size on your table by only needing half of the card. Now this is largely a good thing, although I would counter that with the smaller cards kind of meant the same thing, and you could still kind of tuck those also, but this design definitely supports tucking directly, and this is also largely a positive change. So that's the design, but let's talk a little bit about some of the art situation a little bit more that may come into effect with their new weekly play and organized play promos. Fantasy Flight used to do promos. Atomic Mass Game is also doing promos. And so far, all of the promos that they've announced are unit card promos, but it stands to reason that we may also see upgrade card promos, which could see the art return. It has been suggested that that could be one of the ulterior motives for removing art, is that they can make promos more desirable and more coveted if they have, if they have the art returned to them, or if they have maybe different art, or basically if you get promo cards with art. That will definitely have pros and cons. This one is definitely weighted on either side. One of the big pros for this is that this could increase the value of organized play promos. It could increase the value of what you get at organized play. It could increase tournament attendance. It could be very, very good for your local game store that might see twice as many people come out for regular, leagues and organized play and tournaments and all of that. You could see a huge uptick in all of those numbers. But on the other hand, this also could work kind of negatively because of the fact that you can have a little bit of fear of missing out. FOMO is a real thing, and it applies to a lot of people, and it can sometimes push people away, especially if you kind of want to have everything, and all of a sudden you miss a tournament, and if you feel like you're forced to go to eBay, that could put a negative spin on some people. It also can be seen as a negative because you used to have upgrade cards with art, and so if you have to now go and place well in a tournament to win an upgrade card that has the same art that you already had before, it might feel like they took something away from you, and now they're giving it back, but under certain conditions, and that can certainly seem like a negative to people. But again, we don't know exactly what the promos are going to be. I would speculate that we'll eventually see promos of upgrade cards and not only unit card promos. I'm sure upgrades are going to have to come. There's already been some floating around there with like Ahsoka Tano art on them and stuff like that. So I think that's something that we'll continue to see. Now, another thing is selling of the card packs. Now, this is definitely something that factors into this discussion because these upgrade card packs, while they are available as print and play, and while we have seen a decreased focus on the need to have every single card in physical, you can print your lists out and things like that. They are also selling the upgrade card packs. Now, this is a mixed bag for me because one of the pros here is having the option to buy the cards is a huge win. You definitely want to be able to purchase everything. Card packs as a whole are a good thing, and hopefully this is just the first of many more card packs to come. But the con here is that they're trying to get you to buy upgrade cards that have no art on them, and they're frankly kind of ugly upgrade cards, and so it is strange to sell a product that is very ugly, especially when there's art on the box but not on the cards. And I wonder if that could be a little bit misleading if somebody picks that up, especially somebody who's kind of new who picks that up and then opens up the cards and is like, "What? Why is there art on the box but not on the cards?" It might be a little bit misleading even, but that's an interesting thing. But again, it's also multi-language support in the card packs as well. So overall, it's a good thing. I just don't think that it's going to be an attractive product. However, the other card packs that they're going to have, like the unit card packs and command card packs, will have the art on them. It's primarily just the upgrade card packs that are not going to have art. Which brings me to cost. Again, we're talking about selling card packs. Cost is, again, the real reason to have the art removal in the first place. Now, it's not as palatable of a reason for Atomic Mass Games to put out, so that's why they are not standing up in front of their meetings and saying, "Oh, we're doing it to save money." That's an obvious fact, and again, it's not the only reason, but it's definitely the most significant reason. At the end of the day, look, commissioning artists costs money, and if you want to be able to continue to develop the game, that's one additional cost that you're going to have. Now, there are plenty of art assets already in-house. There are plenty of them. Every single upgrade card already has art on there. But it's not like they're only going to release the stuff that already has art. They're going to continue to make new things. So while the cost is at the center of the issue of why the art has been removed, I'm not framing this in a bad thing, because frankly, they are a business. Atomic Mass Games is a business, and to stay in business, you have to remain profitable. You have to keep turning a profit, especially when Asmodee has $1 billion in debt right now from Embracer Group and that whole thing. And with the increased costs of and uncertainty of tariffs and inflation, and the world as we know it is, of course, a world that encourages companies to remain profitable. And cutting costs without actually doing layoffs is certainly a good thing. Now, you could argue that artists will now have less work, but they're still doing art for promos. They're still doing art for unit cards. They're just going to be doing a little bit less art, but not actually laying off any employees in order to accomplish this. So it could definitely be seen as a good thing. Now, again, future products will be less expensive for them to produce, which means that they can make more things. We can, that niche unit that you really wanted now has a better chance of making it. Gungans now have a better chance of actually making it into the game, because instead of just having to do unit art and maybe command card art, they won't necessarily have to do art for every single upgrade that might come to Gungans. So there's less art pieces. So now maybe you can get by with like 10 pieces of art, whereas it might have taken 30 prior, for example. So that's certainly a good thing. Also, another good thing about this is AMG has shown, especially with what they've done for other games like X-Wing before that was canceled, but they have shown that they do like to do card packs. And this is a game, Shatterpoint has card packs. This game could get more and more card packs, especially if those cards are easier for them to produce. Cheaper is a big one, but it's not just the cost in dollars, but it's also the cost in time. Because another thing about the art is the licensing, right? Again, how many times has a card or something been delayed? And one of the big reasons for all of these delays is that every single product not only has to get made, but it has to be approved by Lucasfilm. Imagine this piece of art here is on an upgrade card that's part of an expansion, and everything looks great. Okay, we're finally getting it. Oh, well, that guy's visor is the wrong shade of yellow. They didn't actually have those on Hoth. Kick the whole bundle back, and now you have to redo that whole piece of art. And maybe now there's another cost associated with that, because you have to go back to the artist and say, hey, we need you to redo this because we asked for a yellow visor, but maybe we were wrong. Maybe somebody's shoelace was out of place. Maybe Darth Vader's lightsaber was too long in this picture. Minuscule things that a lot of us might not even know. Maybe that guy's blaster pistol, the barrel is just a little too short, and they didn't have that kind of barrel on Hoth or whatever it was. So again, every piece of art is something for Lucasfilm licensing to pour through and potentially kick them back and deny them, which has many delays, which also does impact the bottom line because it's a slower moving product out. Maybe you have to hold certain things, in the pipeline and things get delayed across the board. And of course, that all leads to lower profits. So again, the cost is definitely at the root of the issue, and there's a lot of other advantages. Again, if they can get card packs out faster and faster and easier in the future, that means we can get more gameplay, more upgrades, more mission cards, more everything. More card packs as a whole is good for the game, especially because there are so many models that have already been made. We don't need every new product to only be new models. A mix of extra card packs in there also would really add extra flavor to the existing models that you already have. It's just a good thing for the game overall to be able to do that. And so that's going to make that a little bit easier, I would argue. The bad part about the cost savings, it's not huge, but it's realistic. And that while that is going to potentially lower their costs by getting rid of that art, we're probably not going to see that cost reduction when it comes to the price that we pay. The simple fact of the matter is companies don't just say, you know what, we're going to lower the MSRP just because, we've been doing such good business and we're more efficient now. We're just going to drop our prices 10%. That typically never happens. Prices typically stay the same or go up. Now, granted, there have been some cases very, very recently in which like Amazon has lowered prices that were hiked exclusively due to the 145% tariffs that have been reduced to 30, and so they have lowered prices back down to that. But that's an extreme case. That's not the norm. And over the long term, we're not going to necessarily see MSRPs drop. We'll only see extreme hikes due to uncertainty potentially drop. But this isn't the type of cost savings that's going to translate into more money in our pocket. It's probably going to go towards being reinvested into the company, being put towards future R&D and future products, and also go towards paying off that massive debt that Asmodee has to pay off. So while it's a good thing and it will make products easier to put out in the future, we're not really going to see that savings in an MSRP reduction. So that's not a huge bad thing. Overall, the cost savings thing I think is good for the health of the game. Now, what could AMG do differently? Well, there's a couple of things. For example, they already have existing card art for all of these cards. They could have just simply put it in place of where that giant logo is already in the middle of the card, scaling up that logo to the top left and filling in all that blank space with the existing art and making it work with the new design. This would still keep all of the information at the bottom of the card and wouldn't cost them any additional art assets because they've already got all of these and they already have the rights to be able to use these. There is the chance that every single printing of these, that artist gets royalties, but I don't think that's how Asmodee commissions art. I believe they do flat fee rates. Now, I could be wrong about that. There could be more to this than I'm aware of. But I think the real reason they're not doing this is because this only would work for the existing upgrade cards that already have art and wouldn't necessarily future-proof the product for future art. Now, there's another option that they could do, is to use existing art assets like miniatures that are already on the box art. They could put for the heavy weapons and for the personnel upgrades and things like that. You could put those on the art card and just use basically a photograph of the painted miniature that's already been approved by Lucasfilm and put that on the card as well. Problem with that is that would only work for like heavy weapons and only work for, basically only work for upgrades that you have a model that you can take a photo of. It wouldn't work for things like HQ Uplink, for example. So again, neither of those solutions are perfect, but they are options. So what can you do if you aren't happy with the way that the cards look? Fortunately, I've got a couple of options. For one, you can just use the old cards. That one's very, very easy. It's an easy option that you can do. Use the old cards, use them. They're beautiful. Nothing wrong with that. And you can just phase in the newer cards as you get them, but using the old cards as often as possible, that's definitely an option. You can also play an organized play and earn promos as they become available and try to make sure that you're getting all the full art cards that happen to eventually become available. You could even literally take some of your new cards and draw on them if you wanted to. I don't really recommend that one, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you're going to have so many extras with all the foreign language versions and stuff. You might be able to just doodle on there a little bit, take a Sharpie or whatever, and have some fun with it. Maybe you'll come up with something really cool. But I think one of the best options, if you're looking for something that you can do right now, the community has already done a lot of that work for you. heading over to Reddit. There's a really cool project right now, and it's a kind of a compilation between users Goober143 and Captain Stanhope have each done part of bringing this project to life. And basically, they've taken existing art and kind of putting it into every single card and formatted it in such a way that these are all printer friendly, so you can just either print them out and cut them, and they're ready to go. And I'm going to put a link to this in the video description below, so you can head over and check out this whole project. There's a lot of cards in here, and it's a very cool way to do it. Now, this is a really cool solution, and it might satisfy a lot of what you want, but I don't think that it satisfies everything. And what I mean by that is it will help you to recognize your own cards at a glance, and also help your immersion for your own list. What it won't do is necessarily help your opponent identify their list, or help you to identify your opponent's list. This solution only really works if everybody's using it. And one way to do that would be to get like all of the sites like Tabletop Admiral and all of the list builders to use full art on their cards. Now, that's a big ask because, to be fair, Tabletop Admiral already does a ton of work to maintain that site, and it's a fantastic list builder, and I definitely recommend you check it out. And so it's a big ask to say, hey, can you support full art cards on the website? Maybe that's something that they could do. Maybe it's something they don't want to do because maybe that could get them into trouble with AMG. I'm not sure. I think it'd be a really cool option to have, but it'd be really cool if everybody started using these, because then I could look at your list and say like, oh, I can see you have, this upgrade or that upgrade, just by glancing across the board in the middle of a match. If maybe I'm starting to forget what you had, I need to be reminded. And so I think that would be a really cool option. But again, it's not the most important thing, but it does have value to have those art on the cards. So in summary, is this good or bad for the game as a whole and the game's future? Well, there's definitely a balance here between what Legion's future gains from this and what has been lost. A lot of controversial decisions lately have already annoyed a lot of fans, pushed some fans away, and have some fans that are on the fence. Losing art is definitely one of those things that is going to contribute towards some people leaving the game or finding other games to play. It also could be a barrier for some new players coming in if they see those cards, if that's the first thing they see. It's a possible barrier. However, there are a lot more gains to be had for the long-term future and sustainability of the game, and that is certainly something to be considered. Even though your immersion might not be what it was before, there's still great art on the unit cards, there's still great art on the command cards, and in all of those other cards, there's still a lot of art that's there. So it's not like all of the art has been removed. But reality is that only time will tell. Again, a streamlined and cheaper manufacturing process is very good for the game, but there still have to be enough players left to continue to play that game and to usher in new players into the game. And so far, Atomic Mass has been doing a lot of things that push Legion in the right direction. This is one that I disagree with. I disagree with removing the art, but I understand the reasons for doing it, and hopefully I've articulated kind of both sides to this discussion, and maybe you have an opinion of your own you'd like to share. So overall, I think that this is a potentially good move for the future of the game, while also being risky because of that immersion and recognizability being kind of removed from upgrade cards. So hopefully that's enough to help you guys make a decision on what you think you want to do, and hopefully you have some cool options on ways to kind of fill in the gaps where the art is concerned. Again, check out that amazing Reddit post and all of these formatted cards that the community has already done. It's great work. We also have a winner to announce for the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway that you can put towards an expansion of your choice. Today's winner is Jim McAllister 8495. Congratulations, Jim. Go ahead and shoot me an email at mailcrabbok@gmail.com and I will get you squared away. New round of the giveaway starts right now. So if you didn't win, don't worry. You have time to enter to win the next one. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. I want to hear your thoughts on the art removal. If you are somebody that didn't mind the art removal, let me know. If you're somebody that hated the art removal, let me know. If you're in between, like maybe it was a negative, but you understand the points and maybe you think it's a good overall good for the game. Either way, let me know. Plus, the discussion can continue beyond the comment section. You can join our Discord and keep the discussion going there as well. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this whole channel possible. Thank you so much for your continued support. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dude. So say we all, and always wash your socks.